stations, one network, one voice. Rapid Broadcasting Network, RBN. The sound of your city, rooted in truth, driven by impact.
My name is Akio Sakiodo.
Hey guys, this is Anto Lecky.
My name is Leo Bliss.
My name is Akava. I go by the name Baba D.
And you're tuned into Rapid TV. I love Rapid TV.
Shout out
Rapid TV. Thank you, Rapid TV. Please keep watching
Rapid TV.
This is Rapid TV.
Rapid
TV.
Keep watching.
Keep it down.
Leave it like that.
Good evening to you and welcome to Korero. Anywhere you're watching us from across the world, this is Korero, where we try to even look at the issues of borders on Nigeria and its generality. But tonight, Nigeria's fiscal story is never a simple one. Policies move, numbers shift, and citizens pay attention. Well, just in case you think I've forgotten my name again, my name is Godwin Sunday, and this is Korero, where we unpack the politics, policies, and pressures shaping Nigerians' experience. Tonight, we turn and beam our spotlights to the evolving tax environment, a space that has been anything but quiet. The federal government's new tax drive is presenting a three-way conversation: policy intent, missing fund, and now debt pardon. On one side, authorities insist tax reforms are meant to broaden revenue, reduce resilience on borrowing, and also strengthen a more disciplined fiscal culture. But critics argue that these policies mean little if leakages remain unaddressed. Allegations of unremitted taxes, unexplained shortfalls, and questionable waivers continue to fuel public skepticism. Nigerians are asking the same question: if we tighten the net on taxpayers, who tightens the net on public finance managers? Well, it's a big question, right? Well, then comes the latest twist, even in the tax debt pardon. Supporters sees it as a practical move to encourage compliance and ease business pressure. Opponents warn that it could reward bad behavior and undermine accountability within the system. So what is the government really aiming for? Economic stability, political optics, or a bit of both? Well, looking at how all of these reforms affect businesses, households, and the broader investment climate, tonight we will we'll try as much as we can to x-ray all of this perspective. And joining us to make sense of it all, I'll have two honorable gentlemen that will be helping us even put these issues in perspective. I have with me in the studio the person of Honorable Afubuike Freeman, who is a chartered accountant and also a tax practitioner. And I also have the person of Dr. Tonya Clinton Jaja, a senior counsel of Nigeria, who will be helping us even understand the legal perspective of all of this tax reform. But we'll take a quick break right now. When we return, we'll dive into the conversation. Please stay with us as the show is just starting.
Korero, your front row seats to the most pressing issues, from the corridors of power to the heart of our communities. We bring you unfiltered insight, fearless journalism, and the conversations that matter. And I invite you to this big conversation table as we analyze the top stories, ask the tough questions, and hold power to account. News that informs, analysis that empowers, debate that drives change. Korero, the big conversation, every weekday at 7 p.m. only on Rapid TV.
This is Rapid Broadcasting Network, RBN. We connect people, power stories, and amplify voices. On Rapid TV, we're rooted in culture and your window to the stories that matter. From news to lifestyle, we inform, entertain, and uplift. Join Rapid TV on StarTimes Channel 176, Nightcomsat. On Rapid FM, we speak your language from the soulful airwaves of Umuahia to the vibrant culture of Port Harcourt and beyond. More than broadcasters, we're creators, amplifying that voice within with powerful content across TV, radio, and digital. Join us at rbnradiotv.com and all our social media handles. One network, one voice. Rapid Broadcasting Network, RBN, the sound of your city. Rooted in truth, driven by impact.
And you're welcome back. Right now, I'm in the studio with the person of Honorable Freeman of Fuboike. Yeah, so it's a delight to have you on Korero tonight.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Honorable Freeman, from the perspective of even a tax practitioner, help us understand what is the tax reforms all about?
Okay. The tax reform that is in the brain of the society everywhere, as we know, started in October 3rd, 2024, when the current administration, led by President Ahmed Bola Tinubu, transmitted to National Assembly to reform our tax laws. Because before now, we have been having multiple taxations. So the president make a bold step, like when he removed fuel subsidy at the beginning of his administration. Nigerians were crying, but he made a bold step to remove the first subsidy. He took that bold step to transmit this to National Assembly since 2024 October, and the job was led by a fellow chartered accountant, Ayodele. So after then, on June 2025, it was signed into law. Then they gave grace to start the implementation 1st January. Under the most circumstance, by law, it's supposed to be 90 days for the implementation to begin. But the administration made it deem it fit to give Nigeria up to 1st January 2026 to start the implementation of the new tax law. These tax reforms, they have reduced, we used to have multiple taxation, double digits, but now they have did it in a way that our tax is coming to a single digit. There are a lot of things, like if we are traveling now, you see, you pay road tax, you pay barrel tax, you pay this. So the harmonization, they have 3 leads to 1-digit taxation. There are a lot of things that cut in that tax reform, so that in Nigeria will be beneficiary to it. So, for instance, before we used to have what we call police trust fund. We used to have educational trust fund tax. But all these things have been trimmed. Now removed, they have reduced it to 6 major taxes now, which you have company income tax. You have value added tax, which have been there. Then you have development levy. All these educational tax, police trust fund has been now turned into development levy, which a company that is above the threshold of this taxation are going to pay only 4% of their profit, instead of paying all these, paying 3% education tax, paying the other tax, paying the other tax. So whenever your threshold is above, your threshold, I mean your revenue or your total turnover per annum, once it's above the threshold, being the one harmonized, you will need to pay those tax. So the tax reform is a very welcome development to the country. But as a like treasury first subsidy was removed, Nigeria will suffer at the short term, but at the long term they begin to enjoy. See what is happening in the oil industry now. Competitive has come in. See Dangote is selling fuel.
Well, before you take us to that point,
okay.
A lot of Nigerians are even clamoring at this point, saying that this old tax reform is a scam. First, it is to further impoverish the poor and enrich the rich. But looking at what you are saying right now, how practical is this gap? Is this tax reform going to mitigate that gap between the rich and the poor that have become like a social class difference in Nigeria?
Yes, they are preempting the tax reform or new tax law. The new tax law is the poor are going to benefit more, in the sense that there are a lot of relief in this new tax law. Unlike before, bringing it down to personal income tax, you find out before we used to have what we call consolidated relief allowance. Assume your income to your total income, gross income per annum is 1 million. Government give you 20% of that your gross income plus 200,000 as your relief, irrespective of other deductions like National Housing Fund, National Health Insurance Scheme, your life assurance, your pension, irrespective of this. These are what you are entitled to. Now, government deem it fit, saying that 0 naira to 800,000 is free from your income. Then when it is above, you begin to tax you. So the tax band will start from 15%, then to 25%, which is the highest. Unlike the old one, we have from 7% to 24%. So this new tax reform or new tax law is going to benefit the poor, the low-income earners, the middle class. It's been the rich that will be paying. Those that drive in a luxury, those that are flying first class, they are going to be the one that will be paying. So there's what we call Pareto analysis. The 20-80 is the 20% that are controlling the economy of the country that is going to pay the more. Where the 80, which is the poor, the informal sectors, they will enjoy a lot of relief. You see, when the other states, we have about 6 or 7 states that have legislated on this new tax law, which they are trying to harmonize. If other states follow suit, you will find out those market women, where you will place your goods at the market, before you know it, they will say, pay this rate, pay the other rate, pay this for local government, this for this. They begin to find out that these have been trimmed. The poor begin to enjoy. Thank you.
Interesting times ahead. But then, prior to this time, the All Progressive Congress leadership, from late President Muhammadu Buhari to current administration, have been able to mitigate the tax regime. First, we had what they call the Joint Tax Board. But tell us about the Joint Tax Board. Was it really a failure, which has later led us to even coming out with a tax reform? Was previous tax reforms to complete failure, or were there lessons that we could have even picked in order to mitigate the structures, so that to alienate the fear of the average Nigerian, saying right now, if I earn above 800,000 to 1 million, the government begin to tax me 15% from what the government did not contribute by way of infrastructure and policy. Nigerians are scared, but help us understand all of this. Was there an error from the Joint Tax Board, the JTB, prior to this time?
Prior to this time, I cannot say wholly there was an error, but it's lack of administrative procedure. Like Joint Tax Board, which we used to call them, is no longer Joint Tax Board now. Based on the new tax reform, it's Joint Revenue Board Establishment Act, which was covered by this new tax reform. So before now, the meaning of that Joint Tax Board you called earlier was because it's a combination of all the 36 states, including the FCT. Every member is represented. In all the 36 state commissioner of finance, minister of finance, all of them, accountant general, Auditor General, they're into that joint tax board. That is Joint Revenue Service. So there was not an error. It's a hierarchy of the tax administration that where all the 36 states, all the local governments, they come together to discuss about the tax policy, about the fiscal policy of the country. They have never made an error. It's about lack of administrative procedure. Because you find that some states will say, we want to do it this way. If they will come in a one voice to do it, and going back to our constitution, because this is a tax law, there's a lacuna where we need to amend our constitution of all the different states so that the House of Assemblies, they will begin to legislate for them to harmonize, to have a one voice to be driving this tax law, so that all the Joint Revenue Service Board, they will have a one voice once our constitution has been amended because in a constitution there are some revenue which is allowed by state to collect, but you have to be enshrined to this new tax law so that they will have a one voice. Nigeria will begin to enjoy.
Interesting, but then looking at the Joint Tax Board, which you've called the Joint Revenue Board right now, yeah. It had metamorphosed. All right, looking at all of its structures, its all legal backings and framework, you said that it was due to administrative failure. That was why it was not fully implemented and it did not see the light of day in terms of what it is supposed to deliver, if I get you correctly. Now, Nigerians right now are even asking a very salient question. With these tax reforms being in place, can we trust this reform to be able to take us to our tax Eldorado on one hand? On the other hand, looking at this old tax reform, is it a strategy by the government to further even silence the rich by ensuring that they are taxed more? Because the rich are also clamoring, not just the poor that are clamoring about this old tax reform. The 2080 principle, looking at it, the 20 are also complaining. So is this a strategy by the government from a tax perspective to silence the rich?
Okay, let me start from the last question. It's not a strategy to silence the rich. Taxes are paid on profits. It's like before 2026, prior to this 2026, Nigerians are afraid. Say they will be debiting their accounts. When you have money in your bank account, you will be receiving debit alerts. Some people started holding money in their houses, which is not true. Nobody has rights. From the law, there's no way it was expressly stated that your account will be debited. So is there not silencing the rich? It's for the rich to come out clean, declare, this is my true income. Your taxes are being paid on income. Your taxes are not being paid on overall things that enter your account. It's about you keeping a proper bookkeeping and documentation. This is what enter my account, and this is for expenditure, this is for school fees, this is for this. Then you're not able to pay taxes on your profit. And this new tax law has a lot of exemptions, which the rich can equally use. It's the ability of the rich to use the loopholes in the law to avoid tax. Avoidance of tax is legal. It's evasion that is illegal. So once you are complying, you use all the apparatus that you can use to avoid your tax, and you keep on going. So nobody can silence the rich.
Interesting. I understand that we'll have the person of Dr. Jaja on the other side of this conversation. But Dr. Jaja, it's so good to have you join us this evening on Korero.
Yes, thank you. Good evening.
Dr. Jaja, it's so good to have you join us on Korero tonight. Well, all right, Dr. Jaja, if you can hear me, it's so good to have you join us tonight. It's a pleasure to have you even leave a thought with us on this various tax reform. A warm evening to you, and good to have you join us tonight.
Yes, nice to be here.
All right,
I don't know if I'm showing clearly.
Yeah, Dr. Jaja, we're trying to get you your framing, but then let's even look at the issue around this old tax policy from the legal perspective. Nigerians are saying that despite the leakages that we've seen across the board, just recently the case of Malami that it has been alleged that he has abused his office and other loopholes from previous ministers. The timing for this tax reform, is it right even for Nigerians from a legal perspective?
Well, the government has the liberty to do anything at any time. However, in civilized countries, there's always a referendum. Referendum means you ask the people, are you in a financial position to do this? And then you look at the monetary, what is the situation in the country? As of last year, the World Bank released data that Nigeria now has the highest number of persons living in abject, multi-dimensional poverty. That is below $1 a day. Over 130 million. Nigeria's population is 240 million. So the question is, you have an increasing poverty, a segment of the population. In fact, in the whole world, we have the highest number of poor people. Is this a population you want to impose taxes on? That's the question.
Well, interesting. I think at this point, Honorable Freeman will tend to talk about even the positive side of this tax, saying that the tax is. But then let's throw the question to you: the timing for this tax, is it right? Is the government getting something right? Looking at where the Dr. Jaja Clinton, what he has raised so far.
Yeah. With respect to what Dr. Jaja said, government has a liberty to do anything. But in Nigeria, we are over 200 and something million people. So when they started this tax reform, I said it was October 2024. So every key sector, sector has a representative, including Nigeria Bar Association. They have a representative. In your state, you have your Commissioner of Finance. You have those that belong to Federation Account Allocation Committee. They have a representative. They are the people. There's no way Nigeria in this era, the government will call all Nigerians to come to National Assembly. There must be representative. There are some people that will be speaking on behalf of certain people. So this thing was thrown open. It's like when you see when you are leveling VAT on alcohol consumption, you find that there are some people, when they are giving the sharing, there are some states, you find that their consumption of alcohol is forbidden. But during the sharing formula, you have to allocate the federation account to those states. You will not drive them. So I think there's no way, even if you wait till in 5 years' time, it's a good timing period because Nigeria are moving into a digital era so that we meet up with the global best practices with other countries. The problem we have in Nigeria, we don't have data. This data is our problem. It's not the timing. It's data is our problem. So those ones that are living below $1 per day, are they truly, honestly coming to say they are living below $1 per day? Do they have millions of Nigerians don't have bank accounts? They transact all these informal sectors. They don't have.
Triple butter?
Yes. No triple butter. There are some places you go today. You cannot even buy something and do transfer to them. They will say no. You must provide cash at this modern age.
Well, Honorable, let's even hold your thoughts. Let's get back to person of Dr. Tony Jaja. Dr. Tony, looking at all of the presidential pardon to NNPC on tax, and also the missing fund. In its generality, can Nigerians trust this government and hold this government accountable for what it is promising Nigerians in terms of tax? Although the reform looks very promising, it tends to be the answer to the outstanding questions that Nigerians are even asking. But from your own angle, what is your take?
So my take is there's hypocrisy, there's contradiction between what the government is saying and what they are doing. So for example, the president wakes up, whether he has the power or not, he cancels a debt of 5 trillion, if I am right. 5 trillion. Point something trillion. He cancels that debt. No investigation. EFCC, we have EFCC or ICPC. They didn't go to trace the bank accounts of NNPC staff to know whether, because I have worked in investigation, money trailing. It's very easy to know whether these officials embezzled that 5 trillion. You can trace their assets. You didn't ask the EFCC or ICPC to undertake any investigation. You just woke up, forgave the debts, canceled the debts, 5 trillion. Look at the contradiction. Malami is alleged to have stolen 2.2 billion. It's not up to 1 trillion. And you cannot forgive him his debts. You cannot cancel his debts. You hold him, you can trace his property. Abuja, Kebbi, Kanu. You did meticulously. EFCC traced all those property and now is subject to interim forfeiture. You did not let 2.2 billion go scot-free, but you could forgive a debt of 5 trillion. If that is not hypocrisy, then tell me what else is hypocrisy. The Honorable keeps talking about, I was a lawyer for Federation of Informal Workers of Nigeria, FIWON. There's a federation, they have a representative, one Mr. Benga. They were never invited to the National Assembly to know, how do you feel about this taxation? And you say you are representing everybody. Malami had all this property. Was it taxed? The tax is only for the poor people. So these are the hypocrisy, the contradictions by the government. They tell you one thing, they are doing another thing.
So you are saying invariably that from the legal standpoint, that this old tax reform act is a charade of hypocrisy. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, it's a scam. Let me, for want of better word, it's a scam. How can you, a president, forgive, cancel debt of 5 trillion without due diligence? I know NNPC workers. One of them is in my congregation, a retired accountant of NNPC. He told me the truth that the first million he saw was in dollars. NNPC staff, dollars. They give him, these people give you money in dollars. He said he grew white hair when he went as an accountant because the kind of corruption that goes on in NNPC. And you cancel 5 trillion. If they had traced, EFCC traces NNPC accountants within the period that 5 trillion was, the debt was incurred, you will see the assets in the accounts. Dangote wrote a petition against the CEO, the former CEO of Nigerian Upstream or Midstream Regulatory Authority, based on just a mere simple online check. The school fees of the children of that man is beyond the income of this staff. Very simple check. Dangote is not an accountant, but just by a simple check, the lifestyle, they live above their lifestyle. So from that 5 trillion, even if you could recover 1 trillion, from those, all the NNPC staff in finance, in the top hierarchy, you could have recovered 1 trillion. And that could do a lot for Nigerians. I've written a lot about Malami because I worked under Malami 2018 to 2020. I was the chairman of a federal government agency. I told Malami, you are head of EFCC, you are the supervisory minister. Give us one of the buildings. Let us use as headquarters for this agency. Since 1980, when this agency was established, no office complex in Abuja. We share office in Federal Secretariat. We are tenants. Please give us one of these seized buildings. Malami refused. He was buying personal properties for himself as a minister. Now, one out of the 57 properties that are seized by Malami, I say, please, the government, give one to this federal government agency under Ministry of Justice.
Well, we will come back to that conversation about Malami, but then let me return back to the studio to Honorable Chubike here in the studio. Freeman, I beg your pardon. Well, Honorable Freeman, when we look at this tax reform, I ask, can the average Nigerian trust this administration to deliver on this tax?
You know, taxation is an obligation and it's a compulsory levy. In our constitution and our tax act.
No, you want to take us through the whole, let's just get it.
Yes.
From a tax practitioner perspective, you've been able to say, okay, the old Joint Tax Board failed due to administrative concerns. But right now, looking at the tax reforms, Nigerians are asking, can we trust this administration, going by what Dr. Tonya have said, and other Nigerians have raised concern? Recall this whole conversation started somewhere around October, when the North decided to even walk out of the tax reform, saying that it does not really capture the interest of the North. Till tomorrow morning, a lot of Arewas are saying that this old tax reform does not reflect on the character of the average person from the Arewa region. But then you want to quickly talk about, can we trust this government to deliver on this, or we should be waiting for another administration to be able to implement a credible tax reform and not do away with this, like what the JTB, what happened to the JTB?
The government can be trusted with this new tax law. If you look at, let's use an example, Federal Capital Territory here, FCT. If you look at what is going on all over the places, the infrastructure that are going on, with that, it can give you confidence to pay tax. That you are seeing it, you are feeling it. Like now, in my area, I have 20 hours power out of the 24 hours in a day. Yes, Nigerians can trust this government to the latter, because Nigerians even have right to demand for accountability of what they are paying for. You know, whenever you pay your tax accurately, properly, you can demand for accountability, government. But you know what is holding Nigeria is fear of unknown. That if Nigerians are doing the right thing, you have the right to demand for accountability. You want to see what you are paying. You understand? So, but now, with these tax reforms, if it's fully implemented, the government is supposed to have free education for average Nigerians, because they need money to fund it. They need money for other things. So Nigeria can be, the government can be trusted on this. Let's give them a time. Let's give them a time. Let's see what happens. But the area of debt, missing fund and write-off of debt, I'm totally against that. Because the president did not take normal process of getting those debt write-off. And you know, that those receivables, which the council has said, is about $1.42 billion, equivalent to 5.57 trillion, which is around 16% of our expected revenue for this 2026 budget. if you look at it, you find that it's a budget, the budget has even exceeded some key sectors like education, health, agriculture. What he has written off is not proper. But you know, this is a penultimate year to the election. The written off of those debts is political undertone, which Nigeria need to. If it's a country where things work, Nigeria need to say no. We are saying no to this. It need to be revised. There are forensic auditors who has carried out forensic audit in NNPC Limited over under remittances by NNPC. What are government supposed to use those reports to carry out their further investigation? To recover those money and not to write it off completely. Because if they have, in fact, go contrary to what section 162 of our constitution said. They have gone contrary to that. So I'm not in support of writing off the debt without due process. Because it's an asset. It's an asset. Receivables. It's an asset to the country. And this will not trigger more external borrowing.
Interested. Dr. Tony, let's come back to you. Looking at the old tax policy by the government, of course, the government have come out to say they mean well for Nigerians. But then, Nigerians are also saying at this point in time that the debt forgiveness alone and the debt pardon and the money recovered from by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission alone can fix a lot of all of these lacunas that we are experiencing even in our old tax processes. But then, what do you make of these old speculations by Nigerian and looking at it, try to juxtapose this old situation? Are Nigerians right in their assertions?
So, sorry, take that again, please.
All right, so I'm trying to find out from you at this point. Nigerians have come out to say that the money that is being recovered by the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission alone can solve and approximately all the financial challenges that we have in the country. But then, let's get your take on this whole issue. Are Nigerians right to say that monies recovered from loot, Abacha loot and other loots can fix the country so we don't need the tax reforms? Are Nigerians correct to make that assertions?
Yes, to an extent they are. Because when you look at the chunk of monies recovered, you wonder why we still have to borrow money. Because that is enough to finance. The good thing about like the Abacha loot, the governments of the United Kingdom, the United States, Switzerland, they insisted that tell us the project you are going to use this money for before they handed over the money. So that is a good, they even looked for consultants to oversee the use of that money before you hand over the money to the government. I think that's the same process for EFCC recoveries, because before EFCC should hand over the money to the federal government, they should be specific. We want to use this money for health. We want to use this money for road construction. There should be a written agreement, appointment of consultant, an independent consultant to oversee that project. Otherwise, nothing would happen. Worked on that.
So Nigerians are invariably wrong in their assertions.
One of the recoveries at the island.
We're struggling to...
No, they're right. It's enough to finance...
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Hello?
Yeah, please
Hello?
go ahead. Please go ahead. We can hear you loud and clear.
Yes, Nigerians are right. The recovered loot is enough to finance aspects of the budget. Pick a chunk of the budget, maybe education, maybe road, maybe health, and say this particular loot should fund this part of the budget. They're right.
All right. So let me return back to you, Honorable Freeman. This is your constituency at this point. A lot of Nigerians will say that the reason why we are where we are right now is because tax practitioners like yourself and the body that regulates tax in Nigeria has not been up and doing and has not been responsible enough to address some of this concern. Hence, we have leakages that we are experiencing in the country from time immemorial. But then it is your constituency. How correct is it to say that tax practitioners are largely part of the problem that we're experiencing in the country?
It's wrong to say that tax practitioners are largely problem we are facing in the country. There are tax practitioners and others. You cannot equate it or generalize it. The tax practitioner are the problem.
But then, before you even go, let me pick your thoughts on it. First, we have tax leakages. We have tax invasion. The tax practitioners like yourself, they see these loopholes and they don't raise their alarm. They see these loopholes, they don't challenge the course. They don't file cases even at federal or any of the courts to even challenge some of the status quo. That means the tax, it is perceived that the tax practitioners are negligent in all of this tax evasion, tax ridiculous tax invasion in general. But then, let me get your thoughts.
There is what we call, even the old tax law, even the new tax law, there's what we call whistleblower. Tax practitioners have been doing their best in terms of whistleblow. There are a lot of, even the new Nigeria Revenue Service, the old FIRS, Federal Revenue, there's what they call they use data mining to look and trace all those leakages. There are so many companies that have not been filing their tax returns.
So what about the individuals?
Yes.
Yeah.
The individuals, as you are, you pay tax on daily basis. If you enter a supermarket, buy anything, any item, you find out.
So the man that stays in a remote country that doesn't buy from supermarkets.
Good.
That does trade by barter.
That is one of the leakages you have.
And the tax practitioners identify these leakages and are doing nothing to address this concern.
They are doing something.
Are they not part of the problem?
They are doing something commensurable.
Yes, please.
It's only the remote area where we have state governments, local governments. There's what we call presumption tax. So when they identify those people, like in my area, when I was in secondary school, we used to go to Board of Internal Revenue in the state. During the market days, they will deploy us in certain locations. There's those men coming to sell in the market with their bicycle. We hold them responsible. They must pay tax. It's not the leakages. Is what I said before. Is accountability, check and balances. It's ability to collect and to equally remit.
But the body that regulates tax in the country, looking at the FIRS and also tax practitioners like yourself,
yes,
we've not seen or read that this body have ever sued any organization to court.
No, there are
practitioners, individual practitioners like yourself, even in the tax space. Is it that there is some form of complacency within that space of tax practitioners?
No.
And thereby deliberately allowing this gap to widen?
No, as individual, we have regulators. We have a regulator like FIRS, now Nigeria Revenue Service.
So private practitioners like
private practitioners.
Yes.
We have a team, a body we belong.
Yes.
Like I'm a member.
And that body has not been able to mitigate the tax leakages and the tax gap, even tracing it back to rural communities to ensure that people within the rural community are captured in the old database on tax. That's on one hand. On the other hand, practitioners have not been able to challenge the status quo, hereby leaving us in where we are. Can we say again that tax practitioners are complicit?
The tax practitioners, they are not. Those regulators, like now Nigeria Revenue Service, they are the ones saddled with that responsibility. Those bodies, like Chartered Institute of Taxation Nigeria, They are a different body. They are not empowered to start raising allegations against body. They can whistleblow to those authorities. There are board of internal revenue in every state of the federation. FCT will have FCT internal revenue.
So if I understand you, you're saying that the Nigerian tax regulatory bodies, their hands are tied.
They are the administrator.
So their hands are tied. They cannot independently, practitioners cannot independently challenge the status quo when it observes something that is not right.
Practitioner can only whistleblow to those regulators.
And they cannot take further action.
Yeah, it's the regulator that has
so if the regulators choose to and fail to take those actions, practitioners cannot act.
No, practitioner can.
So can we now return back to say that, can we now say that practitioners are deliberately allowing this gap in our old tax and the irregularities within the tax space to continue?
No, practitioners' hands are tied. They only have power to whistleblow to those authorities. We have to, you cannot go outside the law, what the law says. So is the practitioner, okay, let's for instance, you are here now. Assuming you go to Jevnix or you go to HMedis, when they ask them, pay this tax, on whose authority are you coming from? Are you a staff of Federal Inland Revenue, Nigerian Revenue Service? Are you a staff of FCT, Internal Revenue Service? Nobody will listen to you. You understand? Practitioner can whistleblow, can recommend to those authorities. There's a loophole. This organization, they are not paying tax. There's the practitioner, we're an independent body to come and look at your books. We are not empowered to start punishing those people, start collecting taxes from those agencies.
But you can approach the court.
Yeah, you can approach the courts on the permission or power conferred by those regulators.
Does this reform,
as a witness,
does the new tax reform capture all of this and permits the private tax administrators to be able to take up independent investigation and also prosecution?
Yes, the new tax law has given the practitioner power now. They must be registered under the new tax law. You must be known. With that regard, it will reduce a lot of quacks. When the quacks are reduced, practitioners can sit up. They will work with the regulators to achieve more in this new tax law.
Interesting times lies ahead, Honorable Freeman. But right now, I've been saying that it's time for us to go. Well, Dr. Tony, I want to say thank you so much for finding out time to be with us here on Korero tonight.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Well, Honorable Freeman, it's a delight to have you even join us to look at this old tax reform, helping us to even understand what it's all about. Although you've said that practitioners' hands are still tied, but we hope that your hands will be loosened very soon. But again, I want to say thank you so much for your time.
Thank you for having me.
Well, viewers, this is how far we can go tonight on Korero. Don't forget that you can join the conversation on all our social media platforms. You can leave your thoughts, leave your comments on our various social media platforms currently showing on your screen. And you can also download the Rapid TV app from your Android and iOS devices to keep track of our broadcast. My name is Godwin Sunday. Always remember that peace and unity are the pathways to progress. Do enjoy the rest of your night rest. Bye for now.
My name is Akio Sakido.
Hey guys, this is Anto Lecky.
My name is Leo Bliss.
My name is Akava. Go by the name Baba D.